Is the Santa rally coming? That is the question I'm going to be answering on today's video. As you can see, I've got the Christmas tree behind me. So Merry Christmas to everybody that celebrates it. Right before I get into the video, I just want to say I will be pivoting a little bit on this channel. There will be some changes coming. I want to be focusing a bit more on the stock market going forward throughout 2026. So from January, I will be releasing a new channel name. I will be changing the format slightly to focus a lot more on the stock market. And really, it's no secret that I've been bearish on crypto really since the start of October and the failed breakout in Bitcoin. I do believe we're in a bear market. And for this reason, I do think the best opportunities to make money over the next year are actually going to come in the stock market. They're not going to come from cryptocurrencies. Of course, you can look to short the market. You can make some money on the downside, but you're not really going to be making massive multiples from shorting cryptos. Obviously, it's very, very risky. At any point, shorts can get squeezed. We can see crazy wicks to the upside. So I don't like to risk too much of my capital when it comes to shorting cryptocurrencies. However, in the stock market, I do think we are going to have some nice conditions throughout 2026. Maybe not throughout the whole of the year, but I do think the conditions will be there to make money over the next few months, especially over the first half of 2026. Maybe in the latter half of 2026, we start to see a little bit of turmoil coming in. Maybe we start to see things like the oil price spiking. Maybe we see the unemployment rate spiking. Maybe we see inflation starting to get out of control again. These are all risk factors that could weigh on the markets next year. And actually, I do think at some point this bull market will come to an end, and we will either see unemployment starting to spike or inflation starting to creep up again, which make it very, very hard to avoid a recession. But certainly there's not one forecast anytime soon. Certainly over the first half of 2026, we're expecting inflation probably to soften. Right now, the FOMC at the last meeting, the Fed, very much are sort of talking about there being maybe one or no rate cuts next year. However, we're going to have the new Fed chair coming in, who is likely to be a lot more accommodative to Trump's requests and desires to get very, very low interest rates next year. So I do think next year can be a bullish year for the stock market on a whole, before potentially a bit of downside coming into the back end of next year, which could well coincide with the crypto market bottoming out. I do think probably this crypto bear market does bottom when the stock market corrects heavily and the stock market bottoms. I think the two will bottom around about the same time, and that then could be the trigger for us to get some more stimulus, very, very low interest rates, QE, and we'll probably see the benefits and the effects of that in the following 2 to 3 years. Much like we saw for example, in early 2020, we saw those effects throughout the rest of 2020 and 2021. I'm sure if we started to see some emergency rate cuts towards the end of this year because unemployment's starting to spike, or we're actually seeing the market come down on fears of things like inflation being sticky and not going away, then that could be a reason to actually intervene, for the Fed to actually intervene. We know how much Donald Trump wants the stock market to rally under his term as president. So I'm absolutely sure that that will happen at some point. But let's get into it. Let me actually share what I wanted to talk about today. And really, it was starting off on the NASDAQ. It's looking at the NASDAQ here and saying that, look, the last video, we were up here, we were trading around about sort of 25,700 into this resistance here. We had the Tom DeMark 9, and I talked about as potentially coming off and retracing and pulling back, maybe a retracement into sort of the 382 or maybe the zero point 0.5 or even the 618. We've actually come between the 0.5 and the 618, and we're starting to bounce. So yeah, this is looking strong to me. The stock market is looking healthy. I do think this could be the higher low before pushing on to new all-time highs in the NASDAQ. If we look at the S&P as well, we'll see a similar scenario starting to play out. You can see the S&P's come right into this descending trend line, which we actually broke above. We've come back in. We did come below it, but that's okay. We haven't broken any structure here. We've managed to recapture it the following day. It's into that zero point 0.5 fib retracement, or just above it, just a smidgen above it, as the Nasdaq was, and we're starting to break up back above through all of the daily EMAs and MAs on this chart. Again, the Tom DeMark 9 called the retracement, and now we're starting to push up, and we're on a green one here. If we see a green 2 above a green 1, that is a bullish trade confirmation. Obviously, S&P relatively strong, making an equal high from back in, where's this? Back in October time, is that? Yeah, back in October time. And yeah, the thing that really convinced me that this was actually a buy was that the VIX never got going as in the way it did in October and November. The December rally in the VIX stalled out under 18. Really, as long as the VIX is trading below sort of 18, 19, you want to be buying dips on stocks, and that's exactly what I did. So, yeah, for me, the stock market is looking good here, and I am expecting the stock market to rally probably up to new all-time highs over Q1. And just if we look at the longer term path without getting too far ahead of ourselves, obviously this path is, I'd say, more of a bearish path. It's looking at making an all-time high early next year, and us basically then making a lower high and going on a correction into April. I think that move could play out. What I'm unsure of is, where is the path from there? Does the market sort of come back up mid next year, or does it go on a deeper dip into the middle of next year and into the end of next year and then rally late on next year? So I'm not sure where this dip happens. I do think this dip, could happen early on in the year, or could actually happen later on in the year. And I think in my last video, I did actually show, this sort of extending and us just making our way up throughout the course of next year, maybe up to 7,500, and then actually the sell-off coming at the end of next year going into 2027. It remains to be seen, but obviously for now, this is my base case. Best base case is a new high coming early next year, and then some volatility into 2026. But of course, this could be extended. We could see all-time highs throughout next year, and for this sell-off to happen later in the year. Obviously, this can move out as long as the economic data stays strong. So that is the stock market. Obviously, I've covered the VIX there. I've covered exactly why I was looking to actually buy the dip in the stock market. If we look at crypto, because obviously a lot of you will be here for crypto, we can see coming into support. I'm trying to think if it's this path or is it this path here. I've done it with both paths. Yeah, I did. I think in my last video I did have one of these paths just coming here and sweeping the low, or coming back to this trend line. It seems like that's what we've done for now. Do we go a little bit lower? Do we come down to this sort of 73, these low 70s, sort of sweeping this low here, or do we just end up sweeping the low that we made back in October around sort of 78 and staying above these lows? I think something like this is definitely on the cards, but overall, I am expecting at some point there to be a bounce, and I'm just asking myself, do we go lower before that bounce happens, or do we actually bounce from here? And is that our low? Is that our low? And do we sort of come on this nice sort of rally into early 2026? Everybody starts to think we're bullish, and then obviously the stock markets maybe pull back into March, April, and crypto makes another leg lower, with Bitcoin reaching maybe the 50 to 60k range. That is something that obviously time will tell. The thing with these paths is, they're fairly accurate over the next sort of 1 to 3 months, but as you start to go on over the rest of the year, nobody really knows. Obviously, I'm just outlining what I think could be at the moment one scenario, one outcome if we really are in a bear market. Of course, if the stock market decides to extend and keep making new all-time highs throughout next year, maybe we don't actually go this low. Maybe we're able to hang above this. But I do think that crypto likely does follow this path, and then obviously we bottom out at the end of next year if that is when stocks make their final leg down. So Yeah, I might actually, whilst we're here, I might actually redraw this stock market path because I really do think, I really, really do think at the moment, in terms of my base case, is that the stock market is fairly strong throughout next year. So maybe we see something like this into January, we're sort of chopping away, and then we get the pullback into sort of April, May. This sends Bitcoin down to around the 50k, 60k range. Then sort of stocks managed to come back. Obviously, people are bearish, people are shorting along the whole way, not expecting them to do this, but maybe we do make a final high into the end of next year, and then we see a much deeper pullback into the end of next year and into 2027, and then we see the market obviously turn around. But this could be some sort of recession, this could be a bear market. But this probably provides the final capitulation low for crypto. And then, of course, the new Fed chair announces QE, and we go back off to the moon. So maybe this is what happens for stocks. And then, of course, Bitcoin, by contrast, is just relatively weaker. But obviously, if we do get some announcements for QE in the following year, maybe Bitcoin then starts to respond and finds that bottom, and it's the 4 year cycle playing out again. Of course, we know Bitcoin usually takes a bit of time to get going, so it's probably a lot slower and more prolonged than that, than just absolutely going to the moon. But let's draw this one again. Maybe it's something like this, and we see stocks starting to catch a bid, and then Bitcoin starts to make its way up throughout 2027, 2028, and off we go from there. So, yes, let's see how it plays out. But what I'm trying to say is I would be very, very cautious with crypto here. I do think the risk is to the downside over the next few months, but of course there will be rallies, there will be bounces, and I think we're probably due a bounce very, very soon. And like I say, if the stock market does push up to new all-time highs over the next month or two, then potentially, we see crypto as well go on that bounce. And then, I would have thought throughout this strength, crypto could probably, or Bitcoin, should I say, could probably hold that 50, 60k range. And then maybe this final sort of crash in the stock market is what actually causes Bitcoin to then capitulate down to its bear market lows, and the low comes in around the end of next year. So that is what I'm currently seeing right now, and I'm just looking at whether there's anything else I want to share here. Obviously, the paths haven't really changed on the crypto side from the last video. I think Ethereum comes all the way back down, probably sub 1,000 in the next bear market. Solana, have I put the path on here or not? I don't think I have, but Solana I'm expecting to probably retrace much lower, probably as low as $20, $30 in the next bear market. I mean, there's not a lot of support through here. So yes, those are my thoughts. Just looking at the DXY then, the US dollar, I was thinking the US dollar might actually be bullish from early next year, which could coincide with stocks going into a bit of a pullback. And maybe it is something like this, where the dollar rallies and then this down move coming back into this ascending trend line, should we say, this long-term multi-year ascending trend line, should I say, so major support. Maybe that's when the stock market tops out, or maybe it does something like this. Maybe the dollar actually breaks down and goes a bit lower and actually breaks this trend line. Obviously, that gets markets really excited, but it comes down to one of these longer term horizontal supports. And that's where you actually get the move from, which obviously sends stocks into a bear market. So, yeah, it remains to be seen. Or maybe we just get some fake outs along this trend line. Who knows? But I'm thinking this. I'm thinking lower in the interim, probably some sort of relief in the dollar, which coincides with the stock market and crypto making another leg down. And then obviously further dollar weakness next year, which coincides with the stock market making new all-time highs before the dollar turns around and actually recovers, which sends us into a bear market in the stock market. And obviously, crypto will be fully bottoming out at that point. Um, so, look, I'm going to keep it short and snappy this time. I think I'm going to leave it there. Obviously, I've covered everything I wanted to. It was just really a quick update. Actually, that said, let me actually look at a couple of stocks because I am pivoting more to the stock market, and I just want to talk through some of my favorites here. So, Tesla is one I've got to mention. Tesla looking absolutely beautiful, about to confirm a breakout. I'm absolutely certain of that. Maybe we come up and we test this trend line first, but ultimately, I think Tesla's going a lot higher, probably all the way up to around sort of 657. That is my target based on this Fibonacci extension. So I'll be looking for a target up around 660 on Tesla if we get this breakout confirmed. Google's another stock that I'm very long on, and it has been very strong. I think recently we closed the gap on Google. Is that gap fully closed or not? Let's have a closer look. So yeah, the gap's being filled. I don't think we're going to close any of these lower ones. I think Google is just going to carry on sort of stair stepping up. Very, very strong trend here. Wouldn't fight that. So Google's looking strong as well. One of my top ones. Nvidia. I think Nvidia has the opportunity to explore a little bit lower, maybe coming back down to this 200-day moving average. This would be a nice area of support. Obviously, going a bit lower to around 153 would actually be a retest of the highs from last year, the 2024 highs. So maybe that move happens. But Nvidia, I do think at some point does go higher. And that sort of leads us into some of the AI names. And there's some of the hyperscalers, sort of like the data center stocks, that have absolutely exploded over the last day. One that I have been accumulating, which is looking fairly good here, is CoreWeave. So CoreWeave here, as we can see, has actually come back all the way to the 786. I was monitoring this quite heavily. It's also come into this trend line here from these two lows, and it seems to have formed a nice bounce here, a bit of a breakaway bounce. So, I mean, if CoreWeave can get back above this 92.30, this swing high here, and clear these moving averages, then potentially we could come up and retest around 110, which was obviously also be this trend line resistance and a 50% retracement from this overall swing. And if we can climb through there, then you're looking at around about 150 and then up to 187 and new all-time highs for CoreWeave. So I do think CoreWeave is offering a lot of potential going forward. The other hyperscaler stocks that I'm in, one is Nebius. So Nebius is also turning around. It's on a Tom DeMark 1 here. Big reaction. So I'm thinking Nebius could also trend higher. I thought it might come a bit lower into its 618 Fibonacci, and there's a lot of support down here, but it could be that that has been front run, certainly breaking back above the zero point 0.5. So yeah, there's potential here for Nebius to actually move higher if it can clear these highs at around 103. I think we're moving up to this diagonal here at around about 120, and obviously a breakout from there sets us up to new all-time highs. And I like the fact that this is looking fairly corrective compared to the explosive up move. This is not impulsive for me. This is not a bearish chart for me. I do think at some point Nebius makes its way back up to this trend line, breaks it, and goes to new all-time highs. And the other one is IREN, so probably the weakest out of the few I've just looked at. Mind you, it's come back to the 618, not the 786, like CoreWeave has. Obviously, CoreWeave's had the explosive move today, but we can see all of these are up double digits today and into support here with this trend line similar to Nebius. And yeah, really for me, we just need to start to break out from this high here. So, I mean, if IREN can get back above 50, then it can very, very quickly run up to new all-time highs. And I do think it does make new all-time highs early next year. I think all these stocks are offering massive upside and massive opportunity. I don't think there's any others I really want to cover on today's video. Obviously, if you're looking for a large cap pick, I mean, stocks that are just not going to go anywhere. You know, Tesla is probably the best looking chart of the bunch right now. You've obviously got Google, You've got Amazon as well. Amazon looks like it's about to clear some of these moving averages here and go back to being sort of bullish trend here. So yeah, I think Amazon probably makes its way up over the next month or two. And then some of these hyperscaler stocks, obviously high beta, that is your multiples. These are where the returns are to be had, in my opinion. Whilst crypto is correcting, I think some of these AI stocks can really run hard into 2026 and offer some really nice upside. So, yeah, there's a quick, obviously, update on some stocks as well. Obviously, the first one I've done about these particular stocks, and I'll obviously look to cover these going forwards. I'm looking to rebrand in the new year to, like I say, more of a stock focused channel. So if that is something you're interested in, don't forget to hit subscribe, like the content. If you have done so, please leave a comment. If there's any stocks you want me to cover, any cryptos, especially if it's like a major one, if it's a really tiny one or obscure one, or if the chart looks that bad, I probably won't. But any major crypto or any stock that you want me to take a look at in future videos, please do leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Are you still bullish? Are you still bearish? Do you think we're in a bear market? Do you think Bitcoin can pull around and make new all-time highs in 2026? Do let me know if you think so, and let me know why, especially. And yeah, I will talk to you all on the next one. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Okay, GM. Bye, bye, bye.